Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the News Behind the News with Ralph Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM, and thank you for joining me on today's program. This afternoon, I have here with me a very special guest, and it's good to be able to be on the other side of the table interviewing him. As I can remember, about maybe 6 or 5 years ago, doing one of my first set of being interviewed for the first time with him, and I'm glad that, to see all the things that has happened since then. And I have here with me in the studio Mr. Shujah Reiph. Good afternoon to you, Shujah, and thanks for being on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to your radio listeners, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. So, Shujah, there's many of us who know who you are, but there's always a little few who probably don't. So could you tell us a bit about yourself, and particularly what is it that inspired you to do the work that you do, as far as being an activist and a community leader as well?
Okay, I am Shujah Reiph. I am the head of the Conscious Lyrics Foundation. I'm the president of that foundation. We're involved in organizing community activities, and particularly we focus on the Martin Luther King Lecture Series, the Black History Celebration, and the biggest project that we do annually is the St. Martin Book Fair. And with that, now we have the Caribbean Social Study Competition. That's what I do. I am inspired by knowledge. I promote, we try our best to continue promoting knowledge. So in a brief, that's who I am and what I do. The inspiration comes from, I think knowledge is a great thing to share with people. So that's what I try to do.
Okay. And with that, especially having been consistent in various ways, sharing knowledge, information with people, what was it that gave you that spark? Do you remember the moment where, you realized that this is the field that you want to be in?
Well, I don't have to know one thing that gives you the spark. It is a series of things. I went to school in Guadeloupe in the early part of the 1980s. And Guadeloupe at that time, it was the hotbed for the progressive movement. The independentist movement was very popular then. So you drink from the water of progressiveness at that time. So you realize that you understood the evils of colonialism and what has been perpetrated on Caribbean people. So that triggered me to know that when I come back home to St. Martin, I have to make some kind of contribution and help us become conscious and help us get out of this dilemma of colonialism that we are in. So that was part of my motivation. Guadeloupe had a serious impact on my motivation, and coupled to that, I grew up in the late 70s and the early 80s. The late Bob Marley died in 1981. And I listened to a lot of Marley songs. So Marley, I tell people all the time, the Rastaman Vibration album had a serious impact on my life. And so when we talk about if you get up in your quarrel every day and say praise to Jah, I say I started listening to the lyrics in these music, and those musics really helped me to grow in the positive. And I never looked back since. So my contribution in terms of on the individual level, that was the first contribution was for myself, to try to make me become a better person. And then as we do that, we move on to association work. And by the time 1984, the SMICO organization was formed here in St. Martin Educational and Cultural Organization, which was headed then by Mr. Louis Massington, who's now president of the collectivity. And a number of us young people, Dr. Rhoda and Lasana Siku, Horace White, the late Lillian Stephen, Nadika Stephen, the former president, Alan Richardson. A number of us used to gather on the late Basil Richardson used to gather on a regular basis on a Monday evening and discuss about our country and what we would like to see happen. So that also was part of my motivation, and one of the high points of the association in 1990. We sent a delegation of 4. I was part of that delegation that went to the European Parliament to petition the European Parliament against the invasion of the Europeans in our country. And Massington, who's now president, addressed the Parliament at that time. And we were not even a political organization. We were just a force to be reckoned with. And so those are the type of things we did. And if I look forward, that helped me today to help organize the activities that we are doing, it helped me to help gather other younger generation of people like yourself around my person, and we work together to spread a certain level of knowledge. So that's where we are today.
Okay. And considering what you said, I'm curious about yourself, particularly like your perspective growing up in Samaritan, in terms of your reflection of the Samaritan society or the village life when you were young, but also what were the things that you noticed from then, even if you weren't conscious of, as it relates to colonialism and the perils of it?
Let's face it. I'm a student of history, if I could use that term, and reading about us helped me to understand that the dilemma that we are in is because of the colonial domination that we found ourselves in. So we left from a slave society where slavery was the order of the day for my ancestors between the 1600s and 1848 here in St. Martin. So that period of time, our ancestors didn't have a say. They were not represented. They didn't know who they were. They were dehumanized. So we grow to conquer that evil system by getting emancipation and becoming humans. But to me, what did not follow, we were dehumanized, and we still didn't manage to rehumanize ourselves. And that, to me, has to be done with knowledge. So my understanding of history, my understanding of colonialism, helped me to know that the dehumanization of us caused us to act the way how we are in this society. And me, who growing up in this society from a child and learning a little bit about history, helped me to realize that I have a lot of work to do on an individual level first, because like the great Amiri Baraka told me one time, despite he's a militant and understand that he's fighting against a whole structure, he himself had been colonized for so long that he make colonial mistakes every day. So I make colonial mistakes every day. So I am in the process of building myself first. But in the process of doing that, I'm trying to pull along certain people with me. And the more we pull along, the more people we get to understand the dilemma that we're in, we will advance the country more. So that is what I would say on the fact that living in this society from a child growing up to now, where our people have been dehumanized through a structure, and the goal that I have set out for my person and then spread it within an organization is to rehumanize myself and those who subscribe to the idea of the rehumanization process.
Okay. So in a sense, building your identity as an individual.
Well, rehumanizing is part of the identity building, because we definitely have an identity crisis about who we are, what we represent, where we are, what we could do to help us advance.
Which goes back to what you're taught, which is the main goal of ensuring that we are the ones who tell our story, our narrative.
Yes, that's it. We our story, our narrative will never be told the way it should be, and only us would be qualified best to do it. But we need to first be at the level of understanding what were our dilemmas, and then able to bring it forward. So if we can't do that, then we will be doing a disservice to ourselves and to the next generation.
Yeah, to the future, for sure. And considering that, especially as you spoke about SMECO and the work that you guys did, even going as far as Parliament in Europe, I'm curious about at the time when you experienced that huge influx of Europeans on the island. what was it basically? What was the direct impact on the island society?
First of all, Europeans do not respect you. They come with a chip on their shoulders, thinking that this is their country. They conquer it. They do what they want.
And you have to be grateful.
Yes, and yes, that's the first thing that you have to know. So, and then our people have a phobia of Europeans because the structure has been in existence for so long that we think sometimes we are inferior beings to them. So based on those things, that dominance, that approach of dominance over you is what happened with the president of the European. So laws was established, for example, the defiscalization law that permits Europeans to come and invest their monies, and they didn't have to spend it in France or pay taxes in France. They was granted a 10 years tax holiday. So they invested that capital that they didn't have to pay in taxes in St. Martin. So they bought up a bunch of land, they built buildings, and today those buildings was mainly hotels because that's what the defiscalization money was supposed to do. So they build these structures, they run them for about 8 years. After the 10-year period was over, they just start selling them out. That in itself consume a large amount of our prime lands. That's the first thing. Then you have the laws that has been established already, that we were a commune of a department and we didn't have much say. The municipality was what it was, a municipality. So municipal decisions are not a country decision. You own a little bedroom in the household and you even can't control your bedroom. So that is part of the process where we saw colonialism in the fullest sense of the word within this structure. Now, you know that it needs to change, but changing it is part of the error. The point is, to change it, you will have to convince your people. Okay? Your people needs to understand that, hello, this is colonialism. And they believe that European colonialism is not a bad thing. That's the biggest struggle. We are at that point in our life.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying, because one of the things that you realize is that throughout the years, and it's something you can recognize on both sides of the island, we have had persons who, many of us who were sent abroad to go away and study, come back home, and in a sense it's like you're returning to feed a system, but then they also witness deficiencies where in a sense you're actually carved out of functioning, of making decisions or having particularly very key roles or positions that would enable you to better shape your society or direct it, whether it's in a financial sense, economic sense, and the judicial affairs particularly, which is one of those areas that is most entrenched in that European system. So in a sense you're carved out of the equation. So considering what you said with one being the defiscalization and certain laws or policies that were enabled to I guess make it easier for greater French oversight or control on the island, how would you describe the development of the political climate in the north, having the Article 74, which has changed, and the review of, I guess, what has taken place in the past decade and decade plus?
Let me be fair, okay? We are dealing with the people who come from a municipal
mindset?
Municipal setup. Mm-hmm. The structure of a municipality. municipality means what it means, that you're part of a bigger, you're part of a bigger
like entity.
Entity. Okay, so you're fighting to get your people to understand that we could go a little further. So then I am an independentista, so I could carry you to independence. But that's a phobia because they created something in your mind that independence is not good for you. Then you have a situation where they give him a status change. We had a referendum, a consultation. And you get a status change. That status change, some people still think that that's too much of power. We need France, we need Holland, we need Guadeloupe. So people think that it is a little too much. So that's a challenge in itself because you got a people with a municipalities mindset running a collectivity for the last 15 years. I believe the present president of the collectivity, because I know his historical background and knows what he stands for, I believe that the level of quote unquote with between brackets autonomy that they have achieved through this new status with the collectivity, we could start making some headway. I believe that. However, how far we will go and how quick the people would follow is the next thing that needs to be done. So the strategies need to be put in place to get people to understand all we are trying to do is to make you love you and make you know that you can make the right decision for yourself. But the challenge, that's a challenge already. So Mussington has a big part, a big chunk of the challenge set out for him to get people convinced to do that. That's one. Two, let's face this. We cannot at no time deny the fact that the colonialists, despite you have achieved status change, is still at work. They didn't stop. Not because you got a status change, well, okay, they like us now, they give you all the powers to function, and you could build your country. No, they didn't stop. It's still in their best benefit to own you as a colony. We need to convince our people that being owned as a colony is not at your best advantage. Because they have managed to convince us that being owned as a colony is at our advantage. And that's not true. It is one of those crazy things where, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna use this as an example. And I know it is sensitive waters when you talk this type of talk with people. I have always been amazed by the fact that the religious teaching that we receive teaches us that we're going to have a better living after we die. The people who's telling you so have never died and come back. But we subscribe to it, believing that better living is after we die. And there's no way I could tell people, look for heaven here first now. Even if when you die, if you get a second heaven, is okay. But they condition us for so long. They say, don't worry about that earthly heaven, man. Don't worry about that. You live in poverty. We're going to take your land. We're gonna make the money. You don't worry about making the money because you're going to heaven. And we believe that. Now, I'm not here knocking religion and telling people that heaven is not true. But look for heaven or not too now. We don't do that. It's the same thing with colonialism. They taught us to make us feel that we're here to help you, you know. We love you so much that we're going to give you a little dotation, we're going to give you a little money, and we're here to help you. I use a little poor colony there, and we're here to help you out of being where you are and that kind of thing, which is the furthest thing from the truth. But we've been told so long, and then they make you feel like, you're a little smaller, man, you can help yourself. What industry you have? I mean, where you could live from? You ain't got no agriculture. You can't live from that. Well, you need us to live, and we believe it.
Okay, and part of that too goes into the way you see yourself, which as we started off with, is that identity crisis element. Because even with the reference you made in terms of religion, when you look at religion in terms of religious doctrine, teachings, etc., and colonialism, it kind of boils down to control. Whereas the goal is spirituality and self-determination. As the bigger picture as it relates to your individual self. But even with what you shared, and particularly speaking about reaching persons with basically over 20 years of being involved with activism, the work with Conscious Lyrics Foundation, etc. What have you learned are the best ways to reach people? Understanding the political makeup of both sides of the island, but particularly in the north, where you see lower engagement, for example, in the voter turnout. What are lessons you've learned? What are things that different people in the community can consider in terms of reaching people to really get your message across?
This means right here, radio is the best means. Let me tell you, when we started with SMICO in 1984, the first objective we had was to have a radio station. We ran a radio station for about a month. It was a pirate radio station. We wasn't getting no permit from nobody at the time, so we chose to establish our own radio station and start broadcasting ourselves. We didn't have the means to maintain it, so we lose it. And we still think that radio was one of the best ways to communicate with our people. But what I believe, though, Ralph, is that if we continue to keep positive information in front of the people, if we continue to educate the youngster from day one about who he is, what he represents, what's his role in society, and we continue to do that early enough, our young people are going to grow to the point where they wouldn't need nobody to fool them. You would have been in classrooms where you hear teachers say colonial things, and you would have to have defended based on your little knowledge about history. I have been in those situations as well. But that comes from the fact that you had knowledge. When you went to school, you already had some other knowledge. We still have a school structure that still demonize Africa and glorify Europe. So that is a challenge. We need to do mass education, which could be done via radio and all the other media, social media, and all the media that we have. That's the first mass education. We need to do some individual educating, which means that every household needs to establish a certain value in each one of the youngsters that you're training and you're raising. And then we need to tap into the structure of the curriculum to help St. Martin children to understand the curriculum is not in our favor. So those are the areas, to me, if you ask me what's the best approach, those are some of the best approach. Okay.
I'm glad you stated curriculum, for example, in particular, because right here, for example, you have a copy of the Samaritan Social Studies Competition Handbook, which is a new venture or initiative that you've started along with stuff like the book fair and so forth. So this is going on 2 years now that this has been in existence. Could you share with us basically how this came together and what can people expect for the
I say this
program?
I say this humorously, on another radio show, but it's a fact. I wasn't smart enough to come up with that, okay? So they got some young people who work around us with the book fair committee, and one of them is Miss Merlin Joseph. She's an educator here in St. Martin. I would call her now a senior educator because she's been in the education field for over 10 years now. So she came up with this idea. She said, Shujah, just like how they do a spelling bee competition, why don't we organize a social study competition where we teach the children a certain amount of things and tell them and question them on it? So I said, well, then we have to come up with a handbook. So we published a handbook last year in a rush. This year we put together a better one, fully colored, well stapled, and it's decent. It's a decent handbook. And we go to the various schools, the various high schools. We target the students between the age of 14 and 17, which is the second farm and third farm students. And we ask them to participate by registering 2 persons to participate in the competition. When we did that last year, we had something like 30-something teams. I think it was 34 teams, which was very good.
It's nice.
Yeah, and students participating. This year again, we're repeating it because we think it was very well received last year, and we happy to have put it on, and we want to do the same thing again this year. We're going to have a team of. We hope to have the same amount to register, or if not, even if we have less or more, we're going to still carry out the competition. It does 2 things. It's fun, and then fun where students are being put in front of a game show. We look at game shows on television all the time. Whether it's the one there with Family Feud or whatever one it is. Mm-hmm. We do those. So we have a St. Martin who has one of those game show type softwares, and he loaned this to us for free.
Wow.
To help us put on the show. Well, he's conducting the whole thing, so we're going to have that again, where students are going to be posed questions about what's in the handbook. The name of cities, of capitals in the Caribbean. There's historical information about St. Martin, historical information about the rest of the Caribbean, the foods, the fruits, the fauna and the flora, the animals,
I saw you have even down to political figures, flags.
And there's a flag. Flags is a big thing.
Yeah, because sometimes
we don't know the Caribbean flag.
Yeah,
we definitely don't. I'm a flag lover, so I understand flag. We have the dates of independence of various countries. We have a new chapter that I think is an interesting chapter. It's called the wars that was inflicted on us here in the Caribbean. For over 500 years, they've been at war with us. That's a serious chapter. And St. Martin youngsters are now gaining information and gaining knowledge from this handbook. I don't expect that the St. Martin child who's going to go abroad to study after having this handbook and studying it, when he goes abroad and people see or heard him speak, that child would be defending what he or she have learned within the St. Martin handbook that they had the opportunity to study. That is a plus. So we're no longer going to be sending students abroad to these universities where they're going to the universities empty about their knowledge of themselves, the knowledge about their environment, their region.
Correct.
Okay? Because I'm sure you could testify to this. You love history, so you probably would have been a little more different to some of the students who went abroad. But a lot of the students...
We had a lot of them express it. If they feel like, wow, I wish I learned, especially with home.
Yeah.
We wish you learned more about St. Martin itself.
Yeah,
you can't share much about your own country.
And we don't know nothing about the Caribbean either.
That's right.
Okay, so we have to go abroad. We have to go to the United States or the UK, and we don't go to Caribbean universities here in the Caribbean. So we go to the
Not
United
by
States.
significant numbers, at least. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
not by a large number, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we go to the UK. We go to to
The Netherlands, Europe,
Netherlands.
basically.
We go to Europe. We go to
Canada,
the United States,
yeah.
Canada, and then when we go there, they tell us about Derek Walcott, and they tell us about Marcus Garvey, and they tell us about
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. They tell us about all these Caribbean people that we didn't know nothing about, and we are ashamed because we come through a curriculum that is in the Caribbean, and nothing absolutely about Caribbean people are being taught to us.
Yeah.
We are trying to change that.
Yeah, you're trying to make your history a living history.
Yes,
You know, not
definitely.
just facts, figures, and numbers, but,
Yeah.
something that matters, that is a part of you and that inspires you to, continue the progression, the ideals of, our legacy. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the News Behind the News with Reiph and Tav on Mix 94.7 FM. Thank you for sticking with us on our program for today. And in here in the studio with me is Mr. Shujah Reiph. Basically, Shujah has shared with us that this year will be the second year that the Samaritan Caribbean Social Studies competition will be taking place. With that, Shujah can also let us know when will it be held, the date and time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just say we alternate every year. This is our second year, but with the book fair, we alternate between sides of the island because when we're doing something, we do something for the whole 37 square mile of the country.
Correct.
We don't discriminate to say this from one side, and we don't do that. We claim
Samaritan in general.
We claim all 37 square mile, every rock, every tree, every bush. We claim all of it. So let me just say that yes, we are going to have the competition this year. Last year we was at the Dutch Quarter Community Center. This year we're going to be in the north. We're going to be in La Savane at the Robert Wenham High School there in La Savane. You know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be in a gym there, the gymnasium there. We're going to retransform that gym so that we could set it up so the students could be well accommodated. The space is large, so we're looking forward to that. And then people have the opportunities from both sides. So the person who lived in Dutch Quarter last year could have walked to the event. The one who lived in La Savane this year could walk to the event. Okay, so that's what we try to do. Next year we're going to again alternate. We're going to come back over here in the north. I don't know where we're going to use yet, but we're going to be back over here in the north next year, please God. Not over here in the south. Sorry, next year, please God. Okay, so that's the first thing. The date is scheduled we try to do it 1 week before book fair. So the Saturday before the opening of the book fair, which this year falls on the 28th, we're going to have the opening of the competition, the social study competition, and that is going to be at 5 p.m. in the afternoon at the Robert Wenham High School in La Savane, Grand Cars. So we're encouraging folks who wants to come and see the competition. We think it's a fabulous thing to see our children display their knowledge. Last year in the I remember in the hall, some adults was next to me and they say, I even know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of that. So you would ask to identify individual, you would ask to identify dates, you would ask questions about flags, you would ask things. We don't know Caribbean capitals. So if you ask somebody what's the capital of Tortola, some people they do not know. What's the capital of Tobago? People do not know. You understand? What's the capital of
forget that one.
Turk and Caicos?
Yeah.
So now the booklet is available. You could get a booklet and you could brush up yourself because it's always good to know about where you are and who you are and that kind of stuff. So,
correct.
So we encourage people to do that.
Okay. So, and then following that is, of course, 20 years now, the Samaritan Book Fair.
Yeah.
Could you take us back a bit? When and how did that start?
Okay. The book fair started in 2000, 2003. We had a writers' conference, a writers' workshop. It actually was a writers' course, a 6-month course, which was organized by the House of Nehesi Publishers. And we had a number of authors who visited that course, and we had some serious discussion. I participated in that course as a student. And it helped me in my writing, I must admit. It helped me in my writing. I am always proud to say out of that course I started producing some better press releases. So that was a good thing. And I remember before that, like in the late 80s, early 90s, I was telling Lasana from the House of Nehesi Publishers that we should have a book fair in St. Martin. Given the fact that we have a good publishing house, we publish a number of books here, then we should have a book fair. And he was not hostile to it, but just that, you'd sometimes tell you, yeah, you're going to start with one of these days, we're going to do it. So the year after we finished the course, I said, Asana, did you see what happened? With all this information that we have in, with all the exposure that we got, I think this is the time to start a book fair. And I said, so he said, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I said, okay, with or without you, I'm going. And that's what happened. And then he said, well, okay, he's going to join in the House of Nehesi partnership with us for a number of years. And we started the book fair. The idea was that we have a lot of books that was already being published in St. Martin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the books that were being published then needs to be at the center of the book fair. So we weren't just importing authors and importing books.
You promote your home bread.
We wanted to promote our home books first.
Yes, correct.
And help people to understand that we have books, and if you don't have a copy of these books, you need to get a copy of these books. Because there are some good books that were published in St. Martin.
And a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
actually, quite a bit, yeah.
And since the book fair, even more has been published.
Sure.
Okay? So we're looking at, that's part of what the idea was. So based on that premise is when we said, we have a book fair. The book fair, the St. Martin book is the center of attraction within the book fair. And we run from there. And then, you're part of the committee, so you know how we have discussion on a different theme, how we have discussion on how we're going to set up workshops and that kind of stuff. So if you ask me, I think it's been a success. Where can we go from here? That's why this year, the book fair have decided to kind of take stock of where we are in terms of what you have done for the last 20 editions. And on the last 19 editions, the last 19 years, and now say, let's stop the clock. Let's reflect. Let's start a rebirth. So that's the theme, the rebirth. So is it successful? Is it doing what we said that we were setting out to do? Or do we need to make some adjustment? We have some partners who come to the book fair on a regular basis. We will have conversation with them. Say, what do you think of it? Write us a proposal. Write us some suggestions of what you think could be improved, what you think we could do better. So 2023, we will now put the rebirth that we established this year into effect. So whatever, if they say it's good as it is, continue on the same trajectory, then we continue. If they say adjust this, adjust that to make some better improvement, we're going to do that as well. Because the whole objective is to promote literature and literacy in this country. And we are not joking about it. We're serious about what we like and what we want to see for the country. So we're going full force at it.
Yep, that's great. And even with that, what would you say are some of the main objectives, that were the mainstay throughout those 20 years, but, also new ones that will be put in place for coming time to come, basically.
But like we said, the first thing was to promote literature and to put our youngsters, put authors before our youngsters. I think we did a pretty good job with that, where the book is no longer a mystery. The book is now, everybody feel like they could publish. You came in the book fair committee, you have published, 2 books? Mm-hmm. Tamara's in the book fair committee, she has published 1. Rochelle Pfizer, but both of them have been published in the anthology as well. Pfizer has published one of her own. Dr. Rhoda Arundel has published. So all these people have been part of the book fair. And one of the things that we don't look at, but the book fair have been very impactful. I know at least 7 to 10 young book fair members who have achieved at least the minimum a bachelor's degree since they have joined the book fair. Now, it doesn't mean that if they didn't join the book fair, they weren't going to go to school. But the fact that you're being exposed to education and you're being exposed to knowledge, that would propel you even more. And I know the impact of hearing about good writing have also contributed to your writing of your dissertation or your papers that you had to write about while you're in college. So the book fair is a positive thing to help youngsters advance academically speaking. We don't measure that, but that definitely is true. We have had people in the book fair committee. At least we have two PhD that came out of the book fair that was part of the book fair committee and still in its existence. We have had a number of people who have gained their master's degree. There have a number of people who have gained their bachelor's degree since they have been exposed to the book fair. Would they have done it otherwise? Maybe they would have. But can we claim that we have contributed? I think we got the rights to. So I think from that perspective, and we never really sit to analyze that and see the impact it have made, but it is impactful. I see a number of book clubs that have the United Women Book Club, both the senior and the junior club. I want to claim that we have had some kind of impact on that as well. So the book is now demystified. People think it's okay for everybody to publish a book. People think it's okay for us to read and demand a book from the author. I think the Book Fair Committee have contributed to all this. Are these positive things? Yes. Are we going in the right direction? Oh, definitely. So we need to continue doing that.
Yeah. And even with that, can you share a bit on the workshops that take place and, what goes into coming up with workshop ideas, but also the target of, the expertise that you lean on from the different authors that would either be invited or from here that participate in them as well?
First of all, we try our best to select some of the best authors from around the world. And I say this with no apologies. The book fair has been said by a Caribbean magazine which said it's international by nature. So we have had writers from around the world who comes from Asia, from throughout Europe, from Africa.
Africa, yeah.
Okay.
Latin America.
Mm-hmm. This year for the first time, we're going to have somebody from Australia. Author from Australia is going to be here at this year's book fair. So that's a positive thing. That's the first thing. Then now we're looking at what was the direction again?
Basically, the workshops. So
okay, the workshops. Because we have these professionals coming, we target or we ask them to produce some good work, some good workshops on the subject that they have written about or on the subject that they are part. And we look for professionals. For example, we had a discussion about forensic. Remember we had a police officer did a workshop with a forensic expert. That's not in a book in St. Martin, but it's part of this makeup the St. Martin Society. So what is a forensic evidence? That was part of it. We had a discussion about guava berry. The ladies in Colombia who does the traditional organization, they did a workshop on guava berry. We had several workshops on hair, natural hair. We're going to have a discussion about natural hair again this year. So we had a workshop on medicinal plants. We had a workshop on things like that. And these are the kind of things that we want to continue to bring forth for the people of St. Martin. So the workshops are usually done by professionals or people who are working in these fields and know what they're talking about. We target them and ask them to come and do a workshop for us. And usually they are good.
Yeah.
So we are proud of that too.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I've looked at is one book. There's one book fair that stood out to me, which is, I can't remember the year exactly, maybe 2016. But it was definitely the year where basically a lot of people were blown away to see where, the compilation of all the local authors that we've had, that we have or have had. And if I'm not mistaken, it went well over 30 people or so.
It was 37, I think.
Yeah. And that in itself, that was a huge inspiration because it means to say that, one, we have a lot of writers on the island, but also, that it's encouragement to people to write. Everyone has a story, even if it's your personal story, that of a family member, but the ideas, your thoughts, and be as creative as you can. It leads to building, a legacy and a memory of a time, a zone, and which contributes to ensuring that, the way we see ourselves, our version of ourselves, is something that is existent long after we're gone as well.
Yeah. That book fair was the 2015 book fair.
Okay, 15.
Okay. Yes, it was the idea to highlight the folks that has been writing in St. Martin. We're going to be doing something of similar nature again this year, where we're going to put on promotion the number of St. Martin writers. It is our 20th anniversary, so we're not going to put all 37. We're going to do at least 20 St. Martin writers who has been writing and who has published at least 1 or 2 books, and they're going to be featured. Now, we're going to be biased on this one. We're going to first target the books that have been published with House and Legacy Publishers. So we definitely going to have that again. I want to say, baffled might be the wrong term to use. I was pleasantly surprised with a smile on my face that, wow, we have writers in this country.
Yep.
And we could do better. When we finish with these workshops and writers come to people who has a manuscript comes and they have a professional look at it and they read a poem and they brush them up and they'll be able to see that these poems could be improved by just participating in a workshop. We're going a long way. And that is part of what we want to do.
Yeah.
Help St. Martin people to understand that your story is important, but writing it in a professional way is even better.
Yeah, and because it contributes to just lifelong learning.
Yep, definitely.
We always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, where will the book fair be held this time around for this year?
Well, we started a kind of a promo. We're talking about 3Gs. I know we're in the 4G era, but we're talking about 3Gs. So we're going from Great Bay to Grand Cars to Gallis Bay.
Okay.
So we're starting at Great Bay in front of the government building, in the garden at the government building. And the opening ceremony is
2nd of June.
June 2nd at 8 p.m. Then we're going to Grand Cars, the evening. I'm talking about evening activities. Then evening, the literary evening where we do the poetry reading and that kind of stuff. That's going to be in Grand Cars on the 3rd of June. We're going to block the street like how we do the Mardi de Grand Cars. Like how they have the Tuesday night fair. So the streets are going to be blocked. We're going to be erecting a stage in the middle of the streets, and the poets are going to read from their work in the streets in Grand Cars. And then we're going to close off on the fort, which is in Gallis Bay, and the port in Gallis Bay, the port, Gallis Bay Marigot. Mr. Ellis is going to help us with setting up a nice space on the port where the people of St. Martin going to come and be well accommodated there for the closing ceremony, where we do closing ceremony and book launch. So, we've been saying this for years, that we try to put the book fair in different spaces where people don't expect the book fair to be, because the book fair is books are supposed to be everywhere.
Yeah, and that I was just going to add that's a beautiful thing too, because you also, especially for younger folks, you show them the different how do you say, just different exposing different locations in Samaritan. Even when the year that one was done at the port on our side here, no one probably would have expected a book fair.
But you know the biggest surprise? When we kept it in the showroom for the car in
Motor World.
In Motor World.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, and people they're like, but wait, the showroom is for cars. But here we showcased in book.
Yeah.
And so people need to know.
Even and with that too, the participation of businesses and entities to be invite and accept and house books, and the book fair is another thing to commemorate. So with that, is there anything in particular else you would like to share regarding the book fair?
Well, I just want to let people know the registration, we had extended the registration for the youngsters to participate in the competition. The registration is going to close off on Friday. What Friday? The 15th? We're going to close off on Friday. This coming Friday.
This Friday, 13th.
The 13th, Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, the registration is going to close off. So if you want to participate, you don't have to be with a school to participate. Individual could call and participate. The number is 0690 30 73 66. That's 0690 30 73 66. And that's a WhatsApp number. You could send us the name of the students who are going to be participating, and they could register, and they have a chance to win some good prizes. We're going to give them away laptops and that kind of good stuff.
Okay, great. So with that, Shujah, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. And we're looking forward to also seeing you at the book fair.
For sure.
From June 2nd to the 4th.
Okay. To our viewers and listeners, that was Mr. Shujah Reiph, particularly as we spoke about the Samaritan Caribbean Social Studies competition and the Samaritan Book Fair. And do come out, invite your family, your friends, your children, neighbor, everyone, because these, of course, are activities that is important for our social growth and development and progress. So with that, I would like to thank you so much for joining us on today's program, and be sure to tune in again tomorrow. Take care.